Hare Krishna and welcome to Meet the Congregation for the Bhakti Centre at the Gold Coast in Australia. Today I'm introducing to you Suvarna Radhe, and we're going to sit down and have a bit of a conversation with her about her spiritual life. Are you ready? Okay, first question. How did you first meet the devotees?
Oh, okay. Well, my hometown is in Portland, Victoria. That's where I was living. And there was somebody, his name is Sadhguru, actually. He's a Prabhupada disciple. Anyway, he left our hometown and he went to Melbourne and he met the devotees. Then he came back to our hometown and told everybody. And of course, everybody told everybody else. It was like Chinese whispers, and all of us started to become devotees. So at that time, I was only like 14 years old, and I was searching. I was already searching. I was reading all kinds of, alternative things, and so I was already searching even at that age. And some of the guys that used to work for my dad had a boat building business. For some reason, they wanted to preach to me. I was just a kid, and for some reason they would preach to me.
How old do you think you were?
14.
14.
So they would preach to me, but I think it all started pretty much from Sadhguru, and he was like the guru of all of us. So he made a lot of devotees. There's quite a few of us came out of the town.
Big influence.
Yeah.
Yes. And what made you choose to join ISKCON?
Well, in the beginning, when I was reading the books, I used to have doubts about certain things in the books, but it touched so deeply in my soul that when I used to read anything else, it used to seem like very shallow in comparison to Prabhupada's books. But I didn't actually join straight away because I was kind of a hard case and I had my attachments, and so I didn't actually end up joining till 1981. I actually did all this crazy stuff in between. I was always a devotee. I was still a devotee. I still considered Prabhupada as my guru, and I considered Krishna. I was convinced that Krishna was God, and I was convinced that the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam were expansions on the Bible, because I was very much into Christianity, and I'd been brought up in Christianity with really kind of strict Christian grandmothers on both sides. And so I would read those books like Bhagavad Gita and I would think, this is the Bible only with more details. That's what I used to think.
It's a nice way to think of it, actually.
Yeah, so I always wanted to join, but I wasn't ready until 1981 to join, because I just had too many things going on.
Wasn't your time?
No, and I couldn't give up my attachments. I had attachments that I couldn't give up. So then I moved on to the farm, I think the first time in 1981.
Is that New Govardhan?
Yeah.
Okay. And would you like to tell us about your spiritual name?
Oh, Suvarna Radhe. Well, that's an interesting story because I was initiated previously by Bhavananda, who left. Well, he hasn't left actually, he is gone, but he fell from grace, let's put it that way. So, and my husband's a Prabhupada disciple, so after Bhavananda left, my husband always told me, it's okay, you got Prabhupada. Just take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, you don't need anything else. And I agreed with that. And I used to see my god brothers and god sisters getting reinitiated, and I used to think, what are they doing? Like, they've already been in a yagya, that's weird, it's like having 2 marriages. I used to think all kinds of things. And I used to think, it's unnecessary, like, why would you do it? But then I met the Krishna Goswami, and something happened in my heart which I can't explain, but I felt the need to formalize my relationship with him.
And when did that happen?
Oh, it's a couple of years ago now. You know better than me. You're in a couple of years, I guess.
Yes.
Well, the thing is that having a name change has been very humbling for me. It's been very difficult.
Yes.
Because everybody knows Subhangi.
Yes.
That's my previous name. I'm quite well known because I used to live in India for many years in Vrindavan, and I had a lot of dealings with a lot of different devotees and Indians and so many people, business people even. I preached to a lot of people as Subhangi. So having the name changed, now I become Suvarna Radhe. It's like, who's that? Who's Suvarna Radhe? Sometimes on Facebook it's like, who are you?
And then you get to tell your story again.
Well, anyways, it's been humbling, put it that way. But I do like the name. I never liked my old name, believe it or not.
And what does this name mean?
This name, Suvarna Radhe, golden form of Srimati Radharani, the
Beautiful.
servant of.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite nice. It was a nice name. It was very kind of him to give me such a nice name.
Yes. Is there something, or more than one thing if you need to, that has helped you to progress spiritually?
I think there's some formulas to progressing spiritually.
Interesting.
And my favourite formula is to be kind to everybody, to be loving to everybody, to, as much as possible, be harsh on yourself and judgmental on yourself, but not to other people. Because I really feel like Krishna is pleased when you're kind to other souls. You know, not just devotees, but everybody. And also, I feel like we're the representatives of Srila Prabhupada. And if we behave badly, then it reflects on Srila Prabhupada and it reflects on ISKCON. And it's actually like you're turning people away from Krishna, because if you're a devotee, then everybody's going to judge Krishna by you and your behaviour.
Yes.
So I think that that's been a really important factor for me. That realisation has always been a really important factor. Yeah, we must behave properly. We must treat all the devotees with respect and nicely. And whether they're fallen or they have bad habits or anything, that's not our problem. You know, as I said, we should judge ourselves harshly. Another thing is, always chant your rounds, even if you don't do them perfectly.
Yes.
Now, I'm very controversial. I am very controversial. You just saw me drive up in the car and caught me with my hand in my bead bag.
Yes.
But there is no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy name. And many years ago I came to the conclusion that I should just chant them and get in as many good ones as I can, but by hook or by crook, you have to chant that 16 rounds. So I was reading where Prabhupada was saying that, you know, if you chant the 16 rounds, then I can't remember the exact wording. I just read it the other day, I've forgotten already. Then, you know, Krishna will protect you, Krishna will save you. But if you don't chant them, then who knows where you'll end up.
Yes.
He's more or less saying that. So we have to try, endeavour, even if we're not chanting our 16 rounds, still keep the association of devotees. Try to do service, because service is a form of chanting too, in a way. So we should always keep in the association of devotees, no matter how difficult our life is or what we're going through, or whether we're following the principles or not following the principles. None of that's important. You should always stay in the association of devotees and try to serve Krishna somehow, do some service or serve the devotees. So service is also important. We should dedicate a certain amount of our time to serving Krishna. And I know, you know, I see in the Bhakti Centre, it makes me laugh, and everybody's going to be mad at me for saying it, but they only have a couple of hours a week service,
Mm.
and it's so difficult. Everybody has to cancel, they can't do it, and this and that. And then I think, you know, Krishna's given you everything. You should give him some time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're busy, but we have time. We have waste so many hours in our day, so we have time to serve Krishna.
And what do you think is the best service that you are giving at the moment, or that you have given over time?
Myself personally,
Yes.
oh,
It's probably been a lot.
it's interesting because I think, you know, people serve according to their propensity or their nature.
Mm-hmm.
And you shouldn't do a service that's not suited to your nature. You should do what is the most suited to your nature. But I've continuously been doing the deity dress service
Mm-hmm.
for a very long time now. It's like about 35 years. So that's my main service. But I do other services too, because I use my propensity to do business to pay the rent in the Bhakti Centre, which is quite a bit of money that I have to come up with. So I figure every hour that I'm out there making that money is an hour that I've served Krishna.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not making the money for my own sense gratification. I'm making it so people can come to the Bhakti Centre and be introduced to Krishna consciousness.
And you've done that for a long time now, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it's like 13 years now.
Mm-hmm.
That's that particular service. But myself and my husband, our service has always been kind of financing things and making money, but getting older now, so there might be a time when we'll have to think about some other service which I find really boring, like reading and stuff.
Okay. Who have been the greatest influences and mentors in your spiritual growth?
Well, obviously Srila Prabhupada, first and foremost. And my husband has been amazing. I was so fortunate because I was such an idiot, so I have no idea why Krishna actually gave me a good husband, you know, but I was such a moron. I think it was just because somebody else arranged it. It wasn't my own arrangement, so maybe that's why. But my husband's a very steady person, and he's completely a Prabhupada man, and he's very, you know, by the book. So yeah, he's been an amazing influence in my life. And many women, I couldn't even name them all, but many female Vaishnavas, mostly Srila Prabhupada's disciples. They're the ones who've kept me alive and kept me in spiritual consciousness and taught me everything. Yes.
And your children are also Krishna conscious, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, well, to a degree. No, they're all devotees.
Yes.
And they have their issues and their problems, but they were very fortunate to spend a lot of their time in the Holy Dham. And I think that had a big impact on their hearts. So hopefully they'll carry that with them through their lives.
Been very fortunate to be brought into your family.
Oh, Krishna's mercy. All Krishna's mercy, because we don't know, you know, I mean, that's not something, you know, that's just a little bit of good luck, nothing else. Because I know so many devotees who've had children that have had difficulties where, you know, it's just good luck, that's all. But yes, we should definitely be serious to influence our children. If you want to know how I did it, I was very liberal and I never forced, but I always made sure that Krishna was present in their lives, and I always my husband used to speak a lot of philosophy to them and answer all their questions. And you know, the best thing is nowadays it's really good to have on tapes. You can get tapes of all the stories. I think Amla Bhakta or somebody speaks them. Well, when my kids were little, they always had Ama Chitrakart cartoon books, which tell the stories, Krishna's stories. There's Krishna book for kids, and you know, of course, the association with other devotee kids, and but it's very important that they see you always chanting, they see you always worshipping the deity, they see you having a good service attitude, because that will rub off on them.
So leading by example.
Yes,
Yes.
it's very important.
Yes.
You can't say to a kid, don't smoke pot, and you're smoking pot,
Yes.
you know. You can't say to a kid, oh, you're not meant to divorce and you're on your 5th wife or whatever. You've got to sacrifice your own needs for them. That's how it works.
Beautiful. Do you have any home deities, and if so, who do you serve at home?
Well, we've had Jagannath, Subhadra and Baladev for the last 32 or 33 years. They're the ones that we use for the Rath Yatra and the Rath Yatra. I used to worship them a lot more diligently, I must admit, but since I'm staying with my mum, then my daughter's taking care of them. I haven't been very good with my deity worship for some time, but they were our house deities, and we used to they were always the centre of our lives when the kids were little. And they used to belong to Krishna Loila, who's a proper disciple, and for some reason she couldn't worship them anymore, so I was pregnant with my 4th child, and that's 32 years ago, and they came to us, so we've had them ever since then.
Beautiful. What would you like to say to people about Krishna consciousness if they don't know much about it?
Well, I'd like to say that we could die at any minute. Life is very short and it's very temporary, and this life is just like a dream. We feel we have our big PhDs or, you know, diplomas or whatever we have our good karma, our bad karma, whatever we're suffering, and we're so attached to those things that they can be taken away from us in a moment. So it's time to ask that question. How's it going? I think it's Gayami. Who am I? Who am I? Where do I come from? Who is God? What's my relationship with God? So I would advise people that with an open mind, they should read Bhagavad Gita. And no matter how big your social position is, you should become humble in front of the Vaishnavas and inquire submissively from them, because they've dedicated their lives to Krishna consciousness and they have a lot of knowledge to share. So we should abandon our egos and read Bhagavad Gita and associate with devotees.
Beautiful. And last question, is there a story, or more than one if you like, that you'd like to share about devotional life?
Well, what sort of story?
Anything you choose.
Anything I choose. I don't know. Well, it's very funny when I finally met the devotees. It was like, I think it was around 1984 or 85. No, 74 or 75, sorry. It was 1974 or 75. And I was just a teenager, and I decided that I was going to go by train from my hometown to Melbourne and meet the devotees. And I was such an idiot. Like, I had no clue what I was doing. And so I got on this train and I went to Melbourne, and I came out of Spencer Street Station, and I was like, where's the devotees? How am I going to find them? I didn't even know where I was going or who I was looking for or any address. How am I going to find the devotees? And I walked out of the station and I had this ding, 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 ding. And I looked across the road and there was a Harinam party on the other side of the road. So I kind of went over the other side of the road and I was like, take me to your leader. Take me to the temple. I have to go to the temple. And they're like, yeah, we'll take you in a little while. Just take these magazines and hand out some of these magazines.
On your first day,
Yeah. So I was like, oh, what's going on here? So I started handing out these magazines. And then this one devotee got me and he backed me into a shop corner and he started preaching to me. But he had such a heavy accent. He was Yugoslavian or something, and he had such a heavy accent. I couldn't understand anything he said, and he was just saying all this stuff, and then every now and then I'd hear dogs, hogs, camels, asses. You're going to come back as a dog. You know, he'd say all this stuff, and he was preaching really heavy. And so his name's Lagudi. He's still around, but his accent was so strong, I honestly couldn't hear anything he was saying. So then after some hours, they all got into this van. They had a white van, and everybody piled into this van. And I swear to God, it was like one of the hairiest trips of my life.
You went with them?
Yeah, because I wanted to go to the temple. So they put me in this van, and then, you know, it was like all skidding around corners and everything because they wanted to go and get prasadam. And so I went back to the temple, and there were some women there were talking about their day and everything they'd done. I recognise now, I remember Satyarupa was one of them. Anyway, so, and then, you know, they gave me prasadam, they gave me a whole lot of books, and then they threw me out. But the moral to the story is, how important is Sankirtan?
Mm-hmm.
How important is it? Like, I mean, this really does influence people, and I'm a devotee today because somebody gave me a book, somebody preached to me. It's very, very important. We can't underestimate it. Some people try to say that, you know, it's useless or it's worthless and it's outdated and all this kind of stuff, but that simply isn't true. So many people, if you just hear the holy name just one time, all your karma can change. You can be freed from lifetimes worth of karma. Like I remember when we used to distribute books, then we used to think, oh, I never liked distributing books, by the way. I'm not bragging as a distributor because I never was one. I hated distributing books. But I remember when I used to do it, if somebody was inimical, somehow or another I'd get them to touch the book. I'd be like, oh, and I'd make them touch the book because somebody told me if they just touch that book, they're going to be, you know, their karma's going to change, everything's going to change because the book is non-different from Krishna. Mm-hmm. The book is, you know, the pure devotee has put his words in this book. So, yeah.
And it's recognisable too, isn't it? Seeing people chanting in the street, people know, everyone knows who it is.
People love the devotees now. Mm-hmm. They used to throw stuff at us, you know.
Really?
Yeah, they used to throw, you know, I was so traumatized by the 80s. In the 80s, we used to do Harinam in surface, and all these guys used to try and beat everybody up, and they used to throw, food at us. They used to throw. Wow, there was this Down to Earth festival. I think that was in the 70s, because I used to go to those to see the devotees, and all these hippies, they put a gumboot on a stick. And they were chanting Hari Gumboot because they were so fried with the devotees going around doing Harinam and chanting at this Down to Earth festival. So people were pretty inimical towards us, really hateful. And so you can see that since the 70s, how much effect we've had on society.
Positive effect.
Positive effect, because now I'm just blown away. I go on Harinam and people are so friendly. And I often do the paparazzi stuff, so I hear what people say when they walk past. Like, for example, some weeks ago I went on Harinam with the gang from Bhakti Centre, and this woman went past them. She was just a young teenage girl, and she's on her phone. She goes, oh my God, it's the Hare Krishnas. I love those guys so much. And I was like, wow, you would never hear that in the 70s or the 80s. No way, you know.
Different times.
Yeah, crazy.
And did you live at the temple at some point?
Yeah, I used to live in New Govardhan Farm, and that was
In
pretty...
the ashram, or?
I didn't live in the ashram because I was a single mother, so I had kids. So I never lived in the ashram, but I was grateful to not live in the ashram because those women, you know, they were difficult. No. But we used to work so hard. That's why I laugh now when I see people like, you can't do 2 hours service a week. I mean, seriously, like at the time of death, what are you going to say to Krishna? Oh, I'm sorry, I was too busy.
Yes,
I couldn't do any service, but please let me go back to Godhead, you know.
So how did you do service when you had young children with you?
Oh, we used to do so much. We used to have like organised babysitting and stuff. For example, I used to babysit the women's children when they were dressing the deities.
Okay.
Because the
So
temple
everybody helped each
worship is
other.
a big ordeal. Like there's a lot of rigmarole involved with temple worship. So yeah, I used to have this whole group of babies that I looked after every morning at 4 o'clock after Mangalati, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and then things like that would go on. Or we'd do service that we could do with our children. I used to do the paraphernalia in the paraphernalia room, polish all the brass and put away all the clothes and everything. And I used to take my babies there. They'd be on the floor like this underneath Krishna's clothes. Somehow we used to manage. We used to juggle each other's babies. Yeah. And then one of my friends, Bhavani, her name was, she was very good at making money. And one time we were having prasadam, and she says to me, oh, you know, you're such a good talker. You should go out in the pit and make some money. You probably make heaps of money if you went out in the pit. You're wasting your time here. Let's get you out on the pit. So we used to go out on the pit. But the temple president was so amazing, you know, Sababadi again. He used to drive the women he'd drop you at the corners and we used to sell all kinds of things. And he'd drop you in the corners and he'd look after all the kids in the car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, stuff like that used to go on. Oh, we'd drive all around, you know, Queensland and New South Wales, and one woman would look after all the kids. We'd book a hotel or whatever. One woman would look after all the kids, and the rest of us would go out and do the pick. And we used to manage all that stuff somehow. It was pretty ecstatic, but we were very fanatical. Very fanatical. I remember one of the women that was babysitting the kids turned the TV on, and we found out that she'd turned the TV on because one of the kids said, you know, we watch TV, and we all like had meltdowns. We were like, it's Maya, you can't turn the TV on. We were completely fanatics. And no car migraines. I mean, it's good, really. It's the way you're supposed to be, I guess.
Yes.
But, you know, those days, we seem to have watered it all down a little bit these days.
Do you think it's harder now to be as strict in your sadhana?
Yeah.
Not you necessarily, but in general, for people to be more strict because there's so much with phones and laptops and everything always going?
I think it depends on the individual, really. Because I can't speak for other people. I do know that as the years roll on, you get a lot of tests, and, you know, many of us have fallen by the wayside, you know. I was also reading the other day where Prabhupada was saying how, you know, it's a battle in the material world. We're all fighting Maya, and just like in the Battle of Kurukshetra, you know, Abhimanyu fell, you know, so many people fell, they were vanquished. And then he's saying is also many will fall from ISKCON as well. Many of us will fall because Maya is so attractive and so powerful. Maya's attractive. It's Krishna's energy. It's so attractive, you know. You have to watch that movie. It's a good movie. Yeah, so... But I think... it was very ecstatic being strict, but whether you can the way we were, whether you could maintain it, I don't know. I think it's good nowadays. I mean, hats off to the Indians. The Indians are really good, the way many of the Indian devotees, they're able to maintain good sadhana and still hold down their jobs and that. I respect that.
Yes. Very difficult.
Yes, because we always felt that, no, it's all or nothing. You've got to dive right in there, and otherwise Maya will get you, you know. But nowadays it's a little different, I think.
Was there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I've probably already said too much.
Oh, no, not too much.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I would like to thank, on behalf of everyone, the time that you've given us, because I've actually learnt a lot, and we're looking forward to bringing you more stories like this from more devotees in the congregation at ISKCON at the Bhakti Centre at the Gold Coast. So if there's anyone that you'd like to hear about, please let us know, but we'd hope to get around to everyone eventually. And I thank you very much for your time.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.